I was still wearing the paper bracelet from the hospital when the email came in. Paternity analysis, confidential. I clicked it at the kitchen table, next to a cold cup of coffee and a pink balloon that said, "It's a girl." The report didn't shout. It didn't argue. It just said I was excluded as the biological father. And for a second the room tilted like the floor had slipped out from under me. It was supposed to be our miracle late-in-life surprise. 27 years married, mortgage paid off, retirement mapped out on a legal pad in my desk. Then she told me she was 9 weeks along. We cried. She with joy, me with something I tried hard to name as joy too. I wanted to believe. But it was just another normal evening, until she said something that stopped me cold. "Isn't it amazing, at our age?" That word, amazing, hung like a dare. My buddy Frank, who runs tests for a living and doesn't sugarcoat anything, had said, "Do the swab. Quiet. Not to start a fight, just to know." So I swabbed my cheek, and the babies, when we got home from the hospital. I told myself it was for medical history. That was a lie I could live with for 2 weeks. Until the email. Until those percentages and phrases that take the air out of a man's lungs. My phone buzzed. Her text, "Pick up diapers? Size newborn. Love you." I stared at the words, "love you," until they blurred. Then I looked down the hall, to the crib set up in the room we used to call the guest room. The baby slept like peace itself. She was perfect and tiny and had a face you want to protect. But she didn't look like me. Not the nose. Not the ears. Not anything. I didn't yell. I didn't smash the table or hurl the coffee against the wall. I did the one thing a carpenter does when a beam is cracked. You brace the structure before it collapses. What she didn't know was I had something planned that would change everything. I went to the office above the garage where I keep the good tools and the quiet. Opened the fireproof box. Birth certificates. Deed to the lake cabin I inherited from my father. Premarital asset. Notarized. Sealed. The ledger for the contracting business I built with my own 2 hands. 4 years of tax returns. Backup hard drive. The key to a safe deposit box at Mid-County Bank. Contents paid a full year ahead. I laid it all out, like a general folding maps before a long campaign. If you think a man my age can't vanish, you've never met a man who planned for storms. Cash I'd put aside for a down season. A title to the old '79 Ford that doesn't ping the fancy toll cameras. A prepaid phone still in the package. I wasn't running from the child. I was stepping away from the lie. There's a difference. A man's word is his bond, and she broke it without a second thought. When she came home from her mom's with the baby, I was in the kitchen making soup and acting like a husband who was still learning how to hold a newborn. "You're getting good at that," she said softly, sliding her arms around me. I felt the warmth and the weight of years. Christmases, busted pipes, Sunday pancakes, and then the cold blade of that email cut through it all. "I got an email from the insurance," I said evenly. "They want a couple signatures later." "Okay," she said, distracted, stepping away as her phone vibrated on the counter. It lit up, skittered, settled. The name on the screen was one I knew better than I knew my own. My business partner, the man who stood beside me at our wedding, the godfather to our son. Eric. And he was calling again. Eric's name glared at me from her phone screen like a neon sign in the dark. I didn't answer it. I didn't confront her. I just let the phone buzz, and I memorized the rhythm of her steps as she walked into the nursery, humming softly to our baby. My baby in heart, not in blood. My best friend's child. I sat there at the kitchen table with my jaw clenched so hard it hurt. 27 years of brotherhood with Eric. Hunting trips. Christmas Eves with whiskey by the fire. He carried my father's casket with me. And now, while I was at the hospital pacing floors, praying for my wife and the child I thought was mine, he was the one with a claim I hadn't seen coming. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched her breathing next to me, steady, unbothered. Every now and then she smiled in her sleep. Maybe she was dreaming of Eric. Maybe she was dreaming of me. I realized it didn't matter anymore. What she didn't know was that I had already begun laying tracks for an escape. Years back, after watching 2 friends get chewed up in brutal divorces, I promised myself I'd never be caught flat-footed. I had money in a safe deposit box, land in my name alone, and a cabin on the edge of nowhere that no GPS bothered with. It wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. And now, it felt like prophecy. The next morning, I kissed her cheek like nothing was wrong. I changed the baby's diaper. I even took photos, smiling like a fool, and sent them to her sister to keep up appearances. But inside, Something in me had shut off. A switch had flipped, and once it flipped, there was no turning it back. She thought I'd rage. She thought if I ever found out, I'd tear the house down brick by brick. But instead, I went quiet. And quiet men are the ones you should worry about. 2 weeks later, I told her I'd gotten a side job out of town, some renovation work that would keep me gone for stretches at a time. She didn't question it. She seemed relieved even, as if my absence made room for her double life to breathe. I packed the old Ford, left the smartphone at home, and carried only the prepaid flip phone and cash. I wasn't leaving a note. I wasn't asking for answers. I wasn't giving her the chance to twist my anger into guilt. I walked away with nothing but the clothes on my back, my truck, and the knowledge that the man I once called brother was raising my wife's child under my roof. I vanished. For the first few months, I lived like a ghost. I worked odd jobs under fake names: construction, roofing, hauling lumber. Cash only. I slept in the cabin when I could, or in motels when the cabin was too lonely. My world shrank down to four walls and silence. And in that silence, I rebuilt myself piece by piece. But there were nights when I'd hear phantom sounds. A baby's cry in the wind, her laugh echoing in the empty cabin. I'd reach for a phone that wasn't there, and my chest would ache so bad I thought it might split. She probably thought I was dead. Maybe she even told people I'd abandoned her. Maybe Eric comforted her while I lay awake staring at a ceiling of pine boards, wondering how the woman I'd trusted with my life had stolen everything but my name. And still, I couldn't shake the question that gnawed at me like a rat in the walls. Would she ever come looking? Because deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't the end. She'd find me. One day she'd find me. I thought disappearing would give me peace. What I got instead was an education in loneliness. The cabin wasn't much. 2 rooms, a wood stove that smoked more than it heated, and a cot that made my back ache every morning. But it was mine. Hidden. Off the grid. No one from my old life knew it existed except my father, and he'd been gone 5 years. That was why I chose it. No one would think to look. I worked under the table for whoever paid cash. Framing houses in Kentucky 1 month, patching roofs in Ohio the next. I left no paper trail, no credit cards, no calls. I was a ghost in my own country, moving only when I felt eyes lingering too long. The prepaid phone stayed in my glove box, switched off, in case of real emergencies. But I never dialed her, never even typed her number. The hardest part wasn't her. It wasn't Eric either. It was the baby. That little girl I'd rocked in the hospital, who curled her fingers around mine as though I was her anchor in this world. She wasn't mine by blood, but that didn't stop my chest from burning every time I imagined her growing up calling another man daddy. A man I used to trust with my life. At night, when the wind rattled the cabin windows, I'd hear that phantom cry again. Sometimes I'd sit up in the dark, convinced she was just in the next room, waiting for me to come hold her. I'd tell myself it was better this way. Better she never remembered me than grow up watching me drown in bitterness. But I never truly believed it. I kept busy, because busy men don't think as much. I hunted, fished, chopped wood until my hands blistered. I rebuilt the Ford 3 times over. I earned cash fixing barns for farmers who didn't ask questions. And when winter came and the cabin was too cold, I rented a single room in towns where no one knew my name. Always paying in cash. Always leaving before folks got too curious. There were close calls. Once, in Indiana, I saw a man at a diner who looked like Eric. Same shoulders, same lazy grin. My stomach knotted so tight I couldn't breathe. I left my coffee half full and drove through the night until my eyes blurred. I couldn't risk being seen, couldn't risk a whisper making its way back to her. But no matter how far I drove, I couldn't outrun the memories. 27 years of marriage doesn't just fall off a man's shoulders. Her laugh, her hand on my arm, the way she used to hum when she cooked, it was all there, stitched into the fabric of me. And beneath it all was the ache of betrayal, raw as the day I opened that email. Years bled into one another. Birthdays passed with no candles, no voices singing. Christmas came and went with only the crackle of a fire and a bottle of whiskey. I was alive, but I wasn't living. And then, one spring morning, it happened. I was coming out of the hardware store in a little Kentucky town, arms full of lumber straps, when I heard it. John. Her voice. Soft, disbelieving, but sharp enough to slice through me like a knife. I froze. The lumber slid from my hands and clattered to the pavement. Slowly, I turned. There she was. Older, yes. Lines at the corners of her eyes. Hair shorter than I remembered. But still her. My wife. The woman who had shattered me. And she was staring like she'd seen a ghost. John, she whispered again, tears springing into her eyes. Oh my God, it really is you. My pulse hammered so loud I thought the whole street could hear it. After all these years, after all the running, she'd found me. And I had no idea what she wanted. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. Maybe the years of solitude had finally broken me, and now my mind was conjuring ghosts in broad daylight. But no, she was real. Lorraine, my wife. The woman I once trusted with every secret, every dollar, every heartbeat. Her eyes flooded as she stepped closer. John, she whispered again, her voice trembling like a confession. I thought you were dead. Dead. I almost laughed. In a way I was. I bent down slowly, gathering the lumber straps I dropped, trying to buy myself seconds to think. My hands shook as I tied them together. I wanted to stand tall, but my knees felt weak. I hadn't prepared for this moment. I had planned for vanishing, not for being found. How? I finally asked, my voice rough from years of silence. She swallowed, wringing her hands the way she always did when she was cornered. I looked. For years. Hired people. Checked every lead. Then one of Eric's old clients said he thought he saw you in Indiana. It took me months to trace. I never gave up, John. Eric. His name in her mouth was still poison. My jaw tightened. I should have walked away right then. Climbed into my truck and driven until the tires gave out. But something rooted me there. Curiosity, anger, maybe a sliver of masochism. I wanted to hear what lies she'd spin now. You've got nerve showing your face, I said finally. After everything. Her eyes brimmed over. I know what I did to you, to us. But please, hear me. Things aren't what you think. I cut her off with a bitter laugh. Don't you dare start with excuses. I know exactly what happened. I've lived with the truth every day since that test. You and Eric, my so-called brother. That baby who, my throat caught. Who was never mine. People were starting to notice. A woman pushing a stroller slowed to stare. A couple of men loading feed bags into a truck looked over, curiosity plain on their faces. I didn't care. Let them hear. Let the whole town hear. You disappeared, she said, her voice cracking. You left without a word. Do you know what that did to me? To her? Her. She meant the child. That little girl who should have been mine. My chest clenched. I wanted to scream that it wasn't my burden anymore, that I'd been lied to, cheated out of fatherhood. But the image of that newborn's tiny fist around my finger flashed before me, and the words died. I had to. I muttered, my voice low. Because staying would have killed me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She took another step closer, close enough that I could smell the perfume I once bought her for our anniversary. Please, John. At least come meet her. She's 14 now. She's asking about you. The world tilted again. 14. The baby was a teenager now. I had missed every birthday, every first day of school, every scraped knee and Christmas morning. All because of her betrayal. I turned away, gripping the lumber so hard the edges bit into my palms. My truck was only a few steps away. I could end this encounter now, drive until her voice was just another ghost echoing in my head. But then she said it. The words that froze me where I stood. She doesn't know Eric's her father. I spun back, staring at her. My pulse thundered. What? She thinks you are, Lorraine whispered, her voice shaking. All these years. I told her her father disappeared, but I never told her the truth. She believes you're her dad. My vision blurred. My hands went numb. That girl, that child, believed I was her father. And she had been waiting, asking, searching. I thought I'd buried the past when I vanished. But in that instant, I realized the past hadn't stayed buried at all. It was alive, breathing, and staring me straight in the face. And now I had to decide whether to keep running or finally confront it. I sat in the truck for nearly an hour after that, the engine off, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Lorraine stood a few yards away on the sidewalk, pretending to scroll her phone but glancing up every few minutes, waiting for me to decide. She knew me well enough to stay quiet, to let the storm rage in my head until I settled on a course. She thinks you're her father. That sentence wouldn't stop replaying. It wasn't just a lie to protect herself. It was a lie that had shaped a child's entire life. A girl who'd grown up believing I was her dad, while the real truth rotted in the shadows. I thought about the baby I held in the hospital, how tiny she was, how her fingers curled around mine like I was her whole world. I thought about the years I'd lost. First words, first steps, birthdays with candles I never lit. She had carried my name in her heart all this time. And damn me, but part of me wanted to see her. When I finally stepped out of the truck, Lorraine's eyes softened with relief. She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. Not a word. You drive. I'll follow. The ride back to town was silent. My old Ford trailed her shiny SUV, the same model she used to beg me to buy back when things were good. I wondered if Eric had bought it for her. I wondered if he was still in the picture at all. We pulled into a modest house on the edge of town. White siding, blue shutters, a swing hanging lopsided from the porch. Not the home we'd built together, but not a dump either. My heart hammered as I stepped out of the truck. She's inside, Lorraine said softly. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the nerves underneath. Her name is Lily. Lily. The name hit me like a hammer. It was the same name we'd argued about the night she told me she was pregnant. She'd insisted on it. I'd wanted Emily, after my grandmother. She'd won. And now here it was, attached to a girl who thought I was her father. When the door creaked open, my breath caught. She stood there, 14, maybe 15. Dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail, a smudge of paint on her cheek, jeans torn at the knees. She looked at me with wide eyes, a cautious smile forming. Dad, she whispered. I froze. My chest felt like it had been crushed. She looked nothing like me, not really. Her nose was Eric's, her eyes were too. But in that moment, I swear I saw a glimmer of something familiar. The way she tilted her head, the way her lips pressed tight when she was nervous. Little echoes of me, whether real or imagined. I swallowed hard. Lily. She ran forward before I could stop her, wrapping her arms around me like I'd never been gone. Her voice cracked as she said it again, muffled against my chest. Dad. My arms hung at my sides at first, stiff as boards. Then something broke inside me. Slowly, I wrapped them around her. She was taller than I expected, strong. She smelled like paint and shampoo. And just like that, I felt years of walls crumble. Behind her, Lorraine was crying silently. I couldn't look at her. Not yet. Lily pulled back, eyes shining. Mom said you went away because of work, that you couldn't come back for a long time. But I always knew you'd find me. My throat burned. I wanted to tell her the truth, wanted to spill every poisoned detail. But one look at that face, hopeful, trembling, desperate for love, and I couldn't. Not yet. I'm here now, I managed. My voice was gravel. Her smile widened, pure and unguarded. And in that smile, I realized something that made my stomach twist. Whether I wanted it or not, this girl believed I was her father. And nothing on earth was going to take that belief away easily. The real question wasn't whether she believed. It was whether I was strong enough to play the part. The hug left me shaken. My arms still tingled where Lily had clung to me, her voice breaking that single word, Dad. I hadn't heard it in years, and it hit like a freight train. We moved inside. The house smelled of fresh paint and something sweet in the oven. It was warm, lived in, cluttered with books and sneakers and half-finished school projects. Normal. Too normal for the lies buried inside it. Lily darted to the table, grabbing a sketchbook. I've been drawing you, she said with shy excitement, flipping through pages. I didn't know exactly what you looked like anymore, so I kinda guessed. Mom said I got your eyes. I nearly broke. Page after page, men with strong jaws, tired eyes, calloused hands. Versions of me that never existed. Versions of the father she'd been waiting for. That's good work, I muttered, my voice catching. She beamed. I knew you'd come back. I just knew it. Then she glanced at Lorraine. Can he stay for dinner? Lorraine forced a smile through tears. Why don't you wash up first, honey? We'll set the table. Lily bounded upstairs, leaving me in the kitchen with the woman who'd burned my life down. The silence between us roared. You told her I was her father. My voice was low, but sharp enough to cut glass. Lorraine nodded, eyes rimmed red. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't let her grow up thinking Eric was. Eric is her father. I snapped, slamming my hand against the counter. A glass rattled in the sink. You made that choice. You cheated. You lied. And when the truth came out, I vanished because I couldn't breathe under the weight of it. Don't you dare rewrite history for sympathy. Her shoulders sagged. I didn't do it for me. I did it for her. She adored you from the moment you held her. When you disappeared, she cried for months. I couldn't tell her you left because of me. I couldn't tell her Eric was Her voice broke. He didn't stay, John. He didn't want her. That hit harder than I expected. Eric, the man who'd betrayed me, had betrayed her too. Or maybe he'd just been the coward I always suspected. Either way, the girl upstairs had been left with nothing but a mother's lies to hold her together. So you built her life on a foundation of fiction, I said, quieter now, but no less fierce. And now you want me to step into that lie, pretend nothing happened? Lorraine looked at me then, really looked, like she was staring at the ghost she'd been chasing for 14 years. No, she whispered. I want you to decide if you're strong enough to give her what she already believes. You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to stay. But please, don't punish her for my sins. The words burrowed deep. Punish her. The last thing I wanted was to hurt the girl who had just hugged me like her world finally made sense. I rubbed my temples, heart pounding. You should have thought of that before you destroyed everything. Her tears fell freely. I know. Upstairs, footsteps thudded, and Lily's voice floated down. Is Dad staying? My chest tightened. Lorraine's eyes pleaded silently with me. I had no answer yet. But I knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next wasn't about Lorraine anymore. It was about that girl upstairs, the girl who believed I was her father, and the lie that was about to eat me alive. We ate around a wooden table that had scratches in the surface and mismatched chairs, nothing like the oak set I'd left behind all those years ago. Lorraine served spaghetti and bread while Lily talked a mile a minute. She filled every silence with stories. Her art teacher who said she had a gift, her best friend who wanted to start a band, the school trip to Chicago where she saw Lake Michigan for the first time. Her voice carried the kind of joy that belongs to someone untouched by betrayal. Every time she said Dad, I felt the word land heavy on my chest. It was casual for her, natural. For me, it was a blade twisting slow. So, what have you been doing all this time? She asked suddenly, twirling pasta on her fork. Mom said you worked far away. Was it dangerous? Like construction? Or maybe military? Her eyes lit up. I told my friends you were probably building bridges or something. I forced a smile, glancing at Lorraine. She sat stiff, silent, waiting for me to stumble. Yeah, I said carefully, construction. A lot of moving around. Bridges, houses, barns. Hard work, but honest work. Her grin widened, as though I'd just confirmed her childhood dream. I knew it, she said proudly. That's why I started drawing buildings. Look. She jumped up, ran to the living room, and came back with another sketchbook. Page after page was filled with sketches of cabins, barns, bridges, rooftops. My throat tightened. She had unknowingly drawn pieces of the life I'd been living in hiding. You've got talent, I said softly, my voice cracking despite myself. Her cheeks flushed. Really? You think so? I know so. She beamed, and for a fleeting moment, I felt like a father again. But the moment didn't last, because the truth clawed at me, whispering, she's not yours. She never was. I caught Lorraine watching me across the table. Her eyes begged me to hold the lie together, at least for tonight. But part of me wanted to rip the bandage off, to tell Lily everything, about the test, about Eric, about why I had vanished. Instead, I asked a safer question. So, what do you want to do when you're older? She shrugged, stabbing her fork into the noodles. Maybe architecture. Or maybe I'll teach art. I don't know. But it'd be cool to build something that lasts. Something people could see and say, yeah, my dad helped me do that. The words nearly undid me. She didn't know she'd aimed a spear right through my ribs. Dinner ended with laughter. Hers, mostly. When the plates were cleared, she hugged me again. Don't go yet, she said. Please, stay a while. I promised I would. I meant it in that moment, though I wasn't sure how long a while really was. Later, when she went upstairs to finish homework, I sat alone at the table staring at my empty glass. Lorraine reappeared, her face pale. You see now, she whispered. She needs you. She's always needed you. I looked toward the stairs where Lily's footsteps echoed faintly. She needs the truth, I said finally, my voice low. Lorraine flinched. If you tell her, you'll destroy her. Don't you understand that? You'll break her world apart. I clenched my fists, because maybe she was right. Maybe the truth would shatter everything. But lies had already destroyed one life, mine, and I wasn't sure I could live with letting them consume hers too. I didn't sleep. I sat at her kitchen table until the house settled and the pipes clicked like old bones, and I made my decision. I wasn't going to let a lie eat that girl alive just because it had chewed through me. If there was wreckage coming, better I steer it than let it roll over her. In the morning I set my terms. We tell her together, I said to Lorraine. No smoothing edges. No new stories. And after, she gets a say in who she wants in her life. Not you. Not me. Her. Lorraine nodded, hollow-eyed. Okay. Lily came down in a big sweatshirt, still soft with sleep. She smiled when she saw me. You stayed. I did, I said, and it felt like standing on a narrow beam over open water. We sat. The same table, 3 plates, none of us hungry. I didn't waste words. A man's word is his bond, and I wasn't about to break mine again. Lily, I said, I need to tell you something hard, and I'm going to say it plain, because you deserve plain. Her smile faded. Okay. I'm not your father by blood. The words felt like gravel. When you were born, I believed I was. Tests said I wasn't. I left because I didn't know how to stand in a house built on fire. That's on me. Her eyes swung to her mother. Mom? Lorraine folded, elbows on the table, hands over her mouth. I should have told you, she whispered. I was scared. I was wrong. Who? Lily asked. 1 syllable, and it shook the room. I could have made Lorraine say his name, but this wasn't about my punishment for her. Eric, I said. A man I once trusted. He didn't stay. Silence. Then the chair legs scraped as Lily stood. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She walked to the sink, turned the faucet on, and stared into the water like it might answer her. Finally, she faced us again. So, you're not my dad, she said to me, voice tight. But you held me. You came back. She looked at Lorraine. And you lied so I wouldn't be hurt. I lied because I was a coward, Lorraine said. No defense, no lipstick on the truth. For once. What do you want from me? Lily asked, not a child anymore. Choice, I said. You get mine, whatever you choose. If you want me around, I'll be around. If you don't, I'll back away and keep backing away until it stops hurting. But I won't lie to you, not ever. She stared at me a long time. If you're not my dad by blood, are you still my dad at all? I swallowed. By blood, no. By choice, as long as you'll have me. Her chin trembled then. She crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped her arms around me with a force that staggered me. I'll have you, she said into my shirt. But I want all of it. No more secrets. I want to meet him. Just once. I want to see what a man looks like when he walks away. What happened next still makes my blood boil. We met Eric at a diner off the highway. He came in with a careful haircut and a nervous smile. The kind men where when they've spent years practicing excuses in the mirror. He looked at Lily like she was a problem to solve, not a daughter. I'm sorry, he said, quick and thin. For what? Lily asked, steady as a plumb line. For the past. For not showing up? I said. Say that part. His eyes flicked to me, then back to her. For not showing up. And now? Lily asked. Do you want to be in my life? He hesitated. That was all it took. She saw it. We all did. I wanted to know, she said, standing, every inch my daughter in that moment. Now I know. No shouting. No scene. Just a girl making a clean cut. The justice came in paperwork, not fists. I met with a lawyer. Paternity was established by the state, not by my anger. Eric's child support never touched Lorraine's hands. I set it in a college trust with Lily's name on it, and a lock she could open at 18. Therapy, weekly. Boundaries, written. My address, given. The cabin, opened. She spent weekends with me, learning a handsaw and the quiet satisfaction of level, square, true. Lorraine paid her price the way women do when truth finally has its day, not in jail, but in the eyes of the child who no longer believed her by default. PDA posts handed off. Friends divided. The shine gone. She asked me once, through tears, if there was any way back. There's forward, I said. That's the only direction we've got. This summer Lily and I built a footbridge over the stream behind the cabin. We measured twice and cut once. We argued about rail height and laughed at our bad joints. When we sunk the last post, she wiped her brow like a craftsman. Something that lasts, she said. I nodded. Yeah. I walked away from my marriage with nothing but a truck and a name. Years later, I walked back into a kitchen and told the truth that wouldn't burn. I didn't get my old life back. I got something better, a daughter by choice, a bridge that holds, and my word intact.